welcome to Bite-Sized Reviews, where we cut horror into bite-sized portions. Today, we're taking a stab at two disturbing little movies, Excision and We Need to Talk About Kevin. I thought it would be interesting to pair these two movies together because at their core, they actually have a lot in common. Both movies set out to explore a very disturbed mind. Both movies center around a horrific event that takes place somewhere around the end of the movie's runtime. And this event negatively affects the way that we see our teenage protagonist. I'll talk about Excision first because I think it might be the lesser known between the two. And this goes for both movies. This review will be spoiler free, just in case any of you out there are thinking about checking it out. So to start, I'm just going to play this beginning scene from Excision.
Stop it. Get some help.
What the heck is going on? I first saw this movie years ago with my sister. Personally, I was drawn to it because of all of the gory imagery. We'll get more into that in a little bit. But the reason why my sister wanted to watch it is because it stars Annalyn McCord, who I am told was on One Tree Hill. Wait, is that right? It was One Tree Hill, right? All of these shows are just the exact same. Anyway, I was sort of somewhat familiar with Annalyn McCord before this because of her role on Gossip Girl.
It's just that he does that to me all the time, and I have my Not So Sweet 16 party this Friday. I'm stressed to the max.
She played a very glamorous, pretty character there, and in Excision, she plays the exact opposite. Excision, in a way, is a coming-of-age story that follows Pauline, a teenage girl just at the cusp of womanhood, and that is exactly as disgusting as that is not always presented to be. She's gory, she's weird, she has these odd questions and these dark fantasies. Basically, she's supposed to be your average cringy goth girl. Except as the story continues, things just get darker and weirder. I think the main draw of disgust for most people are these cutaway fantasies that she has. A lot of them are extremely gory and extremely sexual. They are kind of pretty. I'm not gonna say that they have a lot of artistic merit. I do kind of wish that there was more to them, a little bit more substance. Mostly I feel like they're there for shock value, but I think that a lot of this movie is just trying to explore this dark, disturbed mind. There is a serious lack of story to this movie that may or may not be made up for with the fantasy segments, depending on how much they keep your interest. All in all, I think I'd give it about a 4 out of 10 on the disturbing meter. I think that one of the easiest ways to talk about We Need to Talk About Kevin would probably be to put it in conversation with Excision. While Excision had a very adolescent sort of pace, We Need to Talk About Kevin feels a lot more adult. And I think a part of that might be that while Excision follows a teenage protagonist, trying to get a very personal look on that disturbed mind, We Need to Talk About Kevin is instead following the mother of a teenager with aforementioned disturbed mind. This movie has an amazing cast. The mother is played by Tilda Swinton. The father is played by John C. Reilly in one of his rare serious roles. And our disturbed teenage boy is played by Ezra Miller. Between the lot of them, Tilda Swinton is definitely the star of this movie. She's the one that sells it the most. She's very engaging and she can express a lot of deep, hard emotions just through her face. It's great to see. You can really tell that a lot of attention to detail went into every single shot of this movie. It is definitely made by somebody who cares about it. As far as the decision to displace the perception from the teenager to the adult, I'm not sure if I like it better. They're just very different approaches. In Excision, we get a very personal look into Pauline's mind. We see her fantasies, we see her in private moments. We even see her praying to God quite often. It's very much her journey. And I don't know, maybe that does enter into slightly more morally questionable areas, I don't know. And we need to talk about Kevin. It's very much the mother's story. It's not necessarily asking what's inside a disturbed mind, like Excision does. Rather, it's trying to look into what creates a disturbed mind. Obviously, there's a lot of nature versus nurture, and with the whole thing being the mother's perspective, you can very much guess where that gets complicated. As far as being a disturbing movie goes, I know it goes down as one, and maybe you can argue that it is because of that whole disturbed mind factor, but personally I found Excision to be a lot harder to watch. Maybe that was just because of all of the extreme gore, I don't know. We Need to Talk About Kevin was a much easier sit, so I'm gonna have to give it about a 2 out of 10 on the disturbing meter, but that doesn't mean that it was a bad movie. In fact, it's a beautiful movie. If I do have any problem with it would probably be that titular character, Kevin. I am sorry, he's just a little bit too over the top as far as your typical emo disturbed teenager goes. And I know that I was literally just talking about a movie where a girl asks about necrophilia in sex ed class.
Yeah, Pauline?
Can you contract an STD from having sex with a dead person?
That should probably be cringier, but no, We Need to Talk About Kevin gives us a much cringier goth emo teenager. There's also just this whole scene where he and his mother go out to dinner and he has this whole spiel.
What bands am I listening to these days, right? Next, you can wheedle about whether there isn't some cute little in the front row who's got me itchy. That way you can segue into how it's all up to me, of course, but before bawling the chick in the hallway, I might decide to wait until I'm ready. Right around dessert, you can ask about drugs. Real careful, because you don't want to scare me into, lying my head off. So you have to say how you've experimented. Then finally, once you've sucked up an entire bottle of wine, you can go all gooey-eyed and say how nice it is to spend quality time together. You can scooch over and put your arm around my shoulder and give it a little squeeze.
I don't know, it just doesn't feel realistic. He just doesn't feel like an overly realistic character to me. It's really just about Tilda Swinton's character. You may not be too disturbed, but I would still definitely recommend checking it out.
And what are all these people watching? Huh? People like me.
As always with these bite-sized reviews, if either of these movies sound extra interesting to you, then let me know in the comments, and I will make sure to give them a full review. Thank you so much for joining me here today, my pets, and I will see you next time. Although donating to my Patreon is unnecessary, it is hugely appreciated. As little as $3 a month could help me put out many more videos. In that note, I would like to thank Wilson L. Ricks III, Scott Falks, and Andre K. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. I can't wait to see you all next time.